All right, I literally just got done watching Over the Limit 2012, so I guess I'll put my 2 cents on it. Now, here's the thing: I started watching the pre-show on my means of watching wrestling, and the thing is on the pre-show on the actual pay-per-view, it's not actually there for some reason. It's actually pretty much exclusively on online, which kind of weirded me out. I mean, wouldn't you try to put it on both at the same time so that people don't have to also be at their computers and their TVs to watch the pay-per-view if they want to see it? So the result is I can't really give my 2 cents on Zack versus Kane in the pre-show. But they did basically set up that they were going to either have the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title on the line, and that set up the 20-man People Power Battle Royal to face either Santino Marella, the United States Champion, or Cody Rhodes, the Intercontinental Champion, later in the night. During the entrances, Christian made a surprise return and actually won the whole thing, ultimately eliminating The Miz. This was an all-right battle royal. It wasn't like chock full of awesome moments, but I thought it was actually a really refreshing way to start up the event, because battle royals in general are very interesting. And it's a good way to build up to something going on later on. What I liked was that everyone had their moment. You know, McIntyre, he didn't look great, but he had his moment. Tyson Kidd looked great. No, didn't look great, but he had his moment. What was another one? Shit. I know there were two more, but I like that people had their moment. Christian pretty much turned face in this. At the ending, I was like, oh god, the final three are three heels. I think it was Christian, Miz, and David Otunga. But yeah, Christian got over with the crowd really easily, and I think at this stage of his career, that makes a lot of sense. Like to make him a baby face, because they have enough heels to work with. They need some baby faces, and the thing is, with the recognizability that Christian has, I think it'll better his career. The next match was Kofi Kingston versus Dolph Ziggler and Jack Swagger. This match was all right. I don't know what it was about this match, but it kind of felt like it was just kind of being held back somewhat. It just seemed a little too slow in my opinion. And that's pretty much it. But I will admit that the last ending sequence is pretty good. But I thought the match went on a bit too long. And I thought that Swagger and Ziggler didn't look quite good. Yeah, and actually in general, like, none of these guys looked quite good enough. I don't know whether they were told to hold it down or something, but there wasn't enough of a memorable moment. Kofi and R-Truth retain. Yeah. Some people have said that if they lose this, that, you know, pretty much end Ziggler and Swagger. And I say, yeah, fucking end it. Because Ziggler has better places to be, and they need to remake Swagger. The next match was Layla versus Beth Pheonix. Now, I've seen better Divas matches between girls like Mickey. I've seen better matches between, you know, girls like Victoria, Trish Stratus, and Lita. But this was actually still pretty good. Admittedly, there was nothing that strikingly memorable, but for its position in the card and how, you know, quickly this was thrown together, I thought this was actually a pretty good match. And again, the ending sequence is actually pretty good. There's not much I can comment on it because I don't remember everything, but I still remember that I did at least enjoy the match. Layla retains, but Beth Pheonix still looks good. So I'm quite curious as to where they're going to go from here. The fans were actually chanting for Karma in the middle of this match, and it kind of saddened me because I looked up what happened to her child, and well, that makes me sad. But I'm wondering whether or not Karma will actually return or not. I guess only time will tell. Next match was the Fatal 4-Way match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Sheamus, Alberto Del Rio, with Ricardo Rodriguez, and Randy Orton and Chris Jericho. This was actually where the night just started to pick up. Like, Remember, if you watched my No Mercy 2002 review, I talked about how you have to build up your card, and then things have to, you know, get better as they progress. This is actually pretty much in the same spot that that Kane versus Triple H was on that card. But this is a much better match, and I thought it really started to, you know, just amp up the crowd, and which you will have noticed later on. During the early match, it kind of functioned like a tag team match at first, where Chris Jericho and Alberto Del Rio were just, you know, keeping down Randy Orton and Sheamus. Then they would come back against them, fight against all the odds, and then, you know, they would square off against each other a couple times. And then the match started to get crazy. It started to get really one-on-one, because, like, guys would keep getting knocked out of the rings. Fucking Ricardo Rodriguez took a couple of rough bumps, which I thought was pretty funny. Del Rio looked really good in this. He actually kept a lot of control in this match. Orton, of course, he looked good in this, because why else would he be in that? Jericho. Jericho, I thought, looked very smart in this, but I think that after this series of losses, it's kind of hard to make him look good. But the only guy I thought that kind of looked bad was Sheamus, because I don't think he was active enough in this match. Like, the entire first half, he was mostly on the outside. But still, this match was really good. And like the other matches I've talked about, they all had a very good ending sequence. Chris Jericho takes the final bro kick, and Sheamus wins. Yeah, this is, I wouldn't call this, like, match of the year contender, but this was still pretty damn good. After that, they kind of had a filler-esque segment where Miz came out and said, you know what, why is everyone talking about Brodus Clay? I'm the best dancer. And he did this shitty attempt at a Michael Jackson impersonation, which I thought was funny, but at the same time, pretty freaking stupid. But yeah, then Brodus came out to a pretty decent reaction, and they had an alright squashish match. Again, they seem to be burying Miz a bit too much. I think this is where Brodus Clay's streak should have ended. First of all, now that Ryback is here, if they want to make his streak seem special, Brodus Clay should lose. Because, you know, everyone can see, oh, someone else has a streak too, but no one gives a shit. But yeah, this is just another random match for Brodus Clay to be in. I think this is the closest thing he's going to be in as a feud. So I think if they are going to do this, he should lose eventually to The Miz. And, you know, Miz should do, like, the most dirty, fucked up things in the world. I'm thinking, like, a Dean Ambrose sort of thing where he just takes the girls or starts doing something gross with their face or whatever, like something Dean Ambrose would do. But then again, with Dean Ambrose supposedly coming in soon, I'm not sure if that would be a good idea. But anyway, Brodus squashes Miz with the Funk It move, I believe it's called. And before that, he actually did a really cool Uranagi suplex off the second rope, which didn't get as good of a reaction as I hoped, but it was still pretty cool for me to watch. Next match was Christian versus Cody Rhodes. And this match was actually this match wasn't great, but it did kind of build up the anticipation a little more. I'd call it a good match. Not one of Christian's best, not one of Cody's best, but I still call it a good match. There's nothing really much remarkable to this, other than the fact that Christian beats Cody Rhodes. And I'll admit, Christian did get over really fast for just turning babyface earlier in the night, but I think he should have won it at SummerSlam. Like, I think they should have built up this feud and have SummerSlam be the send-off, where after Cody Rhodes beats Dirty through all these pay-per-views, Christian finally wins over Cody Rhodes, which I think would really work with Cody, because Christian is a guy who can make everybody look good. And another thing about this is Cody needs a proper feud, but I think he needs to look less weak, because after that feud with the Big Show, I think he just didn't get to look as good as he really should have. But anyway, Christian defeats Cody Rhodes, the new Intercontinental Champion. Being that this guy's a former World Heavyweight Championship, it does kind of bring another level of prestige to the title, but at the same time, Cody just won the title at the last pay-per-view, so yeah. Next match of the night. I don't think anyone's going to deny this. CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. This match went on for quite a bit, and it was a pretty all over the place match in a very good way. I referred earlier to my review of No Mercy 2002, and this actually reminds me of another match in that event where it was Edge and Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. The reason it reminded me of it is that it was very well paced. It started off slow. Both guys did moves that were really out of their style. Both guys did a lot of things that just standed out. The crowd was so fucking into this match. They were chanting Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. They were chanting yes, no, yes, no. The crowd was not that great the entire night, but this was where they just shined. They were ultra into this match. The match started off really technical, but then it got into being strike-based. I like how the entire match, CM Punk sold the supposed rib injuries, and Daniel Bryan sold leg injuries that he was sustaining throughout the match. And I thought it really helped it during singular little moments. The ending was a little jarring, but I thought it was a great way to make both Daniel Bryan and CM Punk look good without either one of them, without CM Punk having to drop the title. I agree with the decision to have CM Punk defeat Daniel Bryan and retain his title. It's just that it's kind of difficult to know where they're going to go with Daniel Bryan because it's hard to know who else he could really work well with, and I don't even know if they're going to continue this feud. So, well, I'm actually interested to see Raw tomorrow based on how they're going to carry this. Next match, last one before the main event, was Ryback defeating Camacho. Seriously, I'm with the Off the Rope show. Give his fucking streak a number, otherwise it's meaningless. Like just like Brodus Clay's. It's like, who cares? He squashed Camacho. If you don't know who that is, Camacho is the dude who Nico brings out with him riding those lowrider bikes. The match was short. I noticed that in his attempt to try to be funny, Ryback ended up kind of looking like sort of a bully character. The fans were still chanting Goldberg, and yeah, it didn't really do much. It wasn't a terrible match. It was just kind of pointless to be on the card, but at least it was short. It's the sort of thing that's meant to hold you over so that the fans aren't completely exhausted once the main event comes. So the main event of this was John Laurinaitis versus John Cena. And here's the thing. This match, this actually wasn't a bad match. It really reminded me of the empty arena match between Rock and Mankind. In fact, fucking John Cena like 4 times pulls shit right out of Rock's bag. But I'll say, before I say anything, I am going to say a lot of negative things, but I thought what they were doing was actually pretty funny, and a lot of what Cena did was actually pretty funny. But I just felt that it dragged on a bit too much. Cena came off a bit too much of an asshole, even to Johnny Ace, and I think they let themselves take too much time with it. Like I sort of expected this to go more along the lines of Vince McMahon versus The Undertaker at Survivor Series 2003, where he basically just Undertaker basically kicks the crap out of Vince McMahon in a very short amount of time, where he's bleeding all over the place, and then at the last second he's saved by Kane. And in this one, it's also very similar in that regard because Big Show comes out. It looks like he's helping John Cena, but then he swerves and helps Johnny Ace because he's technically fired. He was fired by Johnny Ace, but I'm wondering where they're going with this. Am I that interested or invested in this storyline? Not really, but still, I thought it was at least an interesting way to end the show. This pay-per-view was pretty much 2 great matches, 2 meh matches, and everything else was actually, in my opinion, at least time passing or good. Not everything held a purpose here, but everything kind of built up to itself. I do disagree with the decision to have anything besides CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan to be the main event, But at least Johnny Ace versus John Cena made sense in the fact that there was a swerve ending. You know, how much of that it really comes to anything? I guess we'll find out. But I actually thought this was a pretty good pay-per-view. I thought it was better. I actually thought it was overall better than Extreme Rules. The two standout matches of the Fatal 4-Way and the CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan, I don't think they're better than CM Punk versus Chris Jericho at Extreme Rules, but I think both matches were better than both of the matches were still better than Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan and John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. You can take that for what it's worth. Would I buy the DVD when it comes out? Maybe. I'll admit this isn't solid gold, and it could have been structured a little bit better. But yeah, this was still a pretty solid show. Earlier I compared it to No Mercy, and I gotta admit that it kind of does have that same sort of build-up, except that a couple of the matches were actually better than the No Mercy matches, but also a couple of the matches weren't quite as memorable or strong. But would I buy the DVD once it comes out? Yeah, maybe. Assuming I'm not strapped for cash or looking for something else, I actually would check out Over the Limit 2012. What score would I overall give this event? If I was pressed to give it a number, I guess it would be about an 8 out of 10. As I said, some of the matches should have been a little better, and I did have a lot of problems with some of the matches, but overall I thought it was still quite good. So far, this is my favorite WWE pay-per-view I've seen of the year. It doesn't have like that huge of a strong ending like Money in the Bank did last year, and I don't think there was enough like strikingly memorable moments. But still, for a DVD that's gonna come out later, yeah, I would call this worth the money, assuming it was priced like Money in the Bank was last time, which I think was $25. You know, that for me is a reasonable price for this. Thanks for listening. This has been Mr. Sanders. I'll catch y'all later.